Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Empire State of Sports with Landon.
The Yankees have really, I think, made a mess of themselves this all season.
This is the worst.
Cashman's insistent that they're not running this roster back. He's acting like we can't see.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
It just screams spare parts to me. It screams, let's put a donut on a car and then ride it on the highway for 500 miles and hope it doesn't fall off.
Live from New York, this is WIUR Radio.
What's good? We are back. We're on a fine Monday afternoon. Y'all been outside? Nice to see the sun for the first time since, I don't know, September. But we got a lot to unpack today. Of course, I'm Landon Popovic, your host of Empire State of Sports, here live from the WIUR radio station in the Murphy Center. Happy to be back at the weekend in Atlantic City, with Robbie, a bunch of other media students, made some friends. But like I mentioned, always a lot to talk about in New York sports. Let's want to open up with the Knicks. I feel like they're the most relevant right now. I know there was a trade that did occur for the New York Giants. I will touch on, or not a trade, a signing for the Giants. We'll touch on that, but a little bit later. Don't worry. But the New York Knicks, they're living in two completely different realities right now. One night, they're absolutely running the defending champion Denver Nuggets off the floor, dropping a bucket 40 plus, Brunson looking like MVP, OG looking like a defensive cyborg out there, and everyone in the Garden walking out thinking, yeah, we can win the East. And then a week later, not even, just a few days later, the next game, they go out to Los Angeles and can't even crack 100 versus a Lakers team without LeBron James. The offense completely just unraveled there. The turnovers piled up. And Mikal Bridges, the guy you emptied pretty much all your draft picks for, is nowhere to be found. That is, the full Knicks experience in 48 hours. So the question today is simple. What matters more, the absolute domination of a fully formed Denver team that tells you this group has a legitimate championship ceiling, or the ugly, frustrating loss to a LeBron-less Lakers team that reminds you just how thin the margin is when you don't have Jalen Brunson? Because on top of that, Jason Tatum just walked back into the Eastern Conference like he never tore his Achilles. Boston was already a problem without him, and now your road to the finals just got even nastier. This is where the Knicks seal. This is where we are with the Knicks. The ceiling is real, the floor is terrifying, and the clock is ticking. Ladies and gentlemen, yet again, I'm Landon Popovic, and welcome into Empire State of Sports. So the Knicks have really, they've confused me for quite a bit. I went on air a few weeks ago saying I think the Knicks have no chance at anything. Oh, I have a little guest, by the way. Laeska. He's goated. Got him at Rainforest Cafe in Atlantic City. But, you have that just tremendous game versus the Nuggets. You went toe-to-toe with the best team in the league, undoubtedly so in OKC, only losing by 3. And then you go to LA and you perform like that. Versus the Lakers yesterday. Talk about the loss first, and then I'll head to the win. 110-97. No LeBron. The team as a whole just could not shoot from 3. I think that's where a lot of my problems stem for the Knicks this year. Is the fact that they're so reliant on the 3-point ball this year. And I couldn't say that with Tibbs as the coach last year. I'm still upset about that. I feel like Tibbs always had the team out ready to play. Yes, did he not play his bench enough? Absolutely. But Mike Brown might be playing his bench a little bit too much. Bridges mentioned, nowhere to be found, threw up a donut, 0 points, 0 for 6, 4 fouls. Sat a large chunk because of that foul trouble. Listen, I spoke on my last episode last Monday how Minkah Bridges had a 25-point game. And then he comes out and plays like this. I can't help myself but thinking that we could have used, 5 first-round picks for Minkah Bridges for so much more than just him. The domination over Denver, we'll go to that now, was really good to see. It was 142 to 103. Obviously, the Nuggets are fully healthy, have Jokic. I know he was hurt for a little bit, but they have him back. And for the Knicks team to be able to go out there and beat a team with both Jokic and Jamal Murray was great to see. Jokic also had 38 points in that game. It's not like Jokic did nothing. They were just able to bottle up pretty much everyone else on that team. I think a huge part of that was the fact that the Knicks were able to limit the offensive rebounds. Jokic only had 1 in that game. Offensive rebounds, such a huge part of the game. They create the second chances. They create those opportunities that can change a loss into a win. Knicks in that game, started out slow that first quarter, had under a 20% chance to win that game. And then 1 lead change was all it took in the second, to switch the momentum the Knicks' way. Never looked back after that. A great sight, beating one of the best teams in the entire NBA, not just the West. It means something. Knicks were absolutely elite from beyond the arc. Were 16 for 34. Unlike last night, where it seemed like they couldn't shoot from 3, and that's what led to their demise. And a lot of that was because one of their best 3-point shooters, Minkah Bridges, couldn't get anything done. You can't just rely on one player to shoot from 3 and Jalen Brunson when a lot of his game has to do with those cuts right underneath the basket and laying it up, drawing those fouls. Jalen Brunson is so good at that, being able to draw fouls, like when it seems like the Knicks need it most. Denver Nuggets had a 9-point lead in the first quarter. And I thought, oh no, here we go again. But being able to see the Knicks come back from that was a great sight. But moving past the past 2 games, the Knicks had a crucial game against OKC where I was using it as a test to see where I think the Knicks ceiling really is, because they are undoubtedly the best team in the NBA. In that game, it was at MSG. So, you could bring that into account, home court advantage. The Knicks lost 100 to 103. But I think my question to myself was, am I encouraged more than disappointed from this? And the answer is yes. I'm absolutely encouraged by the fact that the Knicks were able to go toe-to-toe with OKC. The champs really needed everything they could get from SGA and Chet. Chet had 28 points, 8 rebounds. Shai had 26 points. And let's talk about Karl Anthony Towns that game, because someone I have been very tough on really showed up. 17 points, 17 rebounds. Almost had 20 apiece. That's how you create offense. Karl Anthony Towns was able to create offense from defense. That's something I've been asking all year from him. His role is not simply to shoot from beyond the arc. He is a center after all. Not the best center. He's more so a power forward. But he was able to play that center role very well against OKC, who is one of the best defensive teams in the league. You know, Brunson wasn't really able to shoot in that game. OKC did a great job at bottling him up, but he had 15 assists. So it's great to see Brunson is able to shift the game plan for the Knicks pretty much when he is getting isolated. But when I think about this in the playoffs, is this really a template to win in the playoffs? You know, ugly defense, you know, Brunson grinding and Towns on the boards. OG was able to hit just enough shots, it seemed like, until the end where the Knicks just couldn't pull it out. Or is it concerning to me that the Knicks still don't have that second creator behind Jalen Brunson? Well, I think we have to talk about OG Anunoby and how he's kind of emerged as what some could consider a third star for this Knicks roster. Everyone knows they have Brunson. Everyone knows they have Cat. But they did such a great job of being able to create offense outside of those two, just unable to get it done. And now, you know, you shift to the East as a whole, and you see that Jason Tatum is coming back. And in his first game back from his Achilles tear, you know, he was out for 298 days. I don't think anyone thought that he would be back this early. In that first game on March 6th against the Dallas Mavericks, he had 15 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists in 27 minutes. And then he had 20 in their win last night. He looked very comfortable out there. And when I think, am I worried? Yes, I'm absolutely worried. The fact that the Boston Celtics were able to win this many games without them, more games than the Knicks, by the way, off the back of Jaylen Brown, who should be getting MVP consideration when you think about it. Because if you think of the term most valuable player, to me, that's Jaylen Brown, because he was able to keep Boston not only in a playoff spot, but in a top-seeded playoff spot in a very competitive Eastern Conference at that upper echelon. You know, Boston was already tracking to be, you know, the 1 or 2 seed, and now they have Tatum back, and it looked like he never left. Had a double-double in his first game back. It just makes this path to an Eastern Conference Finals, even, you know, getting past the first round, that much more hard for this Knicks team. You know, the 4 seed would really be a nightmare because they would go probably head-to-head with the 3-seeded Boston Celtics. But I think if the Knicks' path is, say, I don't know, Cleveland in the first round, I would still be worried because I just saw this team get absolutely decimated versus a Cleveland Cavaliers team just a few weeks ago. Then you would have to face, let's say, Boston in a second round. I don't know how the Knicks really get back to the Eastern Conference Finals with what I've seen on the court. Yes, as of late, there have been a lot of encouraging moments, but there's been a lot of deflating moments as well. The Knicks just like to play with our heartstrings, and they have for years. But people still have so much confidence in this team, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit later when I introduce a new segment to the show. You know, it doesn't kill the Knicks' chances that Jason Tatum is back, but it makes it very, very difficult for them to get to the goal, which is to get back to the NBA Finals for the first time since the 90s. I just want to go back to Mikal Bridges to close the Knicks talk out. Lakers game, obviously, throws up a donut, 0 for 6, 4 fouls. Just can't have that from one of your key contributors that you gave up 5 first-round picks for. Just looked like he was out of rhythm the entire night. And that's the problem with Michael Bridges. Seems like he has to be in some sort of rhythm to get things done. He can't find a way to be a contributor when he can't shoot. He starts to get flustered, starts to get nervous, starts to foul, like we saw last night. You know, you paid premium picks to get Michael Bridges. Probably picks you could have used to turn around and get the star everyone's looking to back up Jalen Brunson with. Maybe Giannis. Maybe they would have had enough picks at that point to get Giannis. You know, he's supposed to be this great two-way wing, you know, that's meant to be a creator, but hasn't really done much in that aspect. I think OG is definitely a much more crucial aspect to this team because once OG went down, you saw that losing streak happen for the Knicks. Saw Michael Bridges not be able to keep up with the load that he had to. You know, could have packaged these picks for an actual superstar, but now the Knicks are kind of stuck with their roster at least until the end of this season. Saw them not really making any deals at the deadline outside of Jose Alvarado. And if Bridges, you know, is just able to top out at 17 to 18 points and is just a defensive wing, which I feel like the Knicks would be thrilled about, I still don't think it was worth that draft pick haul looking back on it. Because on a night like the Lakers game, he just looks like a role player. Not a true number 2 star. I think everyone was really hesitant when they saw that Bridges trade. And they were all like, let's see if we get a championship out of it. I don't think there is a world where the Knicks win a championship with Michael Bridges on the roster simply because they have too much cap space, you know, aligned to so many players. They signed Bridges to that huge extension, which now looking back on that was definitely a mistake because there are so many guards out there that are better than Michael Bridges that you could pay less money for. You know, you look at the Nuggets. Yes, we blew them out. They have Jamal Murray to pair with Jokic, who has been the true number 2 star. We've seen him step into this role this year. When Jokic was out, absolutely absurd. You know, everyone had Jamal Murray in the MVP conversation just until a few weeks ago because he's kind of slowed down. That's, I think, what the Knicks needed from Michael Bridges for that trade to be worth it. But instead, we have a player that's simply someone that Knicks fans can't get behind because we have to think about how much we gave up for him and how that has affected the future of the team. You know, we don't have another first-round pick to really trade until next year. We didn't have high-end picks to trade for a superstar because of Michael Bridges. All right. That's enough Knicks talk. When we come back, going to talk Rangers deadline. Vincent Trocheck stays. Panarin leaves. Carrick back to Buffalo when we get back on Empire State of Sports.
Untouchable, unstoppable.
This is WIUR Sports Radio.
Hi, I'm Robbie Basil, president of WIUR Radio, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Have you ever wanted to call the biggest games, the biggest moments for the biggest names for Iona Athletics? Then the newly founded WIUR Sports Radio is the place to be. Launched in January of 2025, our goal is to try and get broadcasters here at Iona an opportunity to learn, succeed, and get a chance to be on air. From getting to call the big moments at the hack.
Dinkins trying to go to the rack. Denied. Yafet Mundi.
To seeing the crack of the bat at City Park.
The line drive into left field, around third, and it kicks away. The Gales are going to win it in 10.
We make those moments happen on our brand new WIUR Sports Radio platform on Mixer. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to me via email or to the rest of my e-board to join the club. We are WIUR Sports Radio, the new home of Iona Athletics. Now, back to the show on WIUR, Iona University Radio.
We are back. Talked to Knicks, talked about how expectations still are unclear for this team because of a plethora of reasons. Now moving on to the Rangers, who obviously had a lot of noise around the trade deadline. Started things off before the Olympics by trading Artemi Panarin for a bag of chips. That's what it felt like, I think, for pretty much everyone, was that, what is this team doing? There were other players we could have traded outside of Artemi Panarin, and just the way things went down at that time just left a sour taste in my mouth, left a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths. Just absolutely unbelievable how the Rangers handled that situation. Starting out with a move they did make, Sam Carrick, back in Buffalo. Weird, we get him from Buffalo, and now he's back to Buffalo. This happened, I want to say Thursday. Rangers traded Sam Carrick to Buffalo. Got a 2026 third-round pick and a 2026 sixth-round pick. This is after he was held out for quote-unquote roster management with Vincent Trocheck. Touch on Trocheck in just a bit. Carrick this season only had 10 points, 4 goals, 6 assists in 60 games. That's a really good depth forward, though. He only makes $1 million a year through the end of next year. On the ice, it's seen as kind of a minor move. You're not changing your identity on the core, just flipping a guy for mid to late round picks. Nothing to be opposed to for that. It's just when you think about what Brendan Drury said just a few weeks ago about how, that we were going to quote unquote retool. But he was very mysterious as to what that meant. But to me, this isn't the move that the Rangers needed to make for that exact reason. But if you're going to sell, you have to commit to selling. If you're just retooling, retool. This feels like half measures, Move Carrick, but the blue line still has a bunch of holes around it. And Trocheck, future still kind of undetermined. This is really a trade that a confident contender would make to get the cap space to go out and get a star, but then the Rangers did nothing. It was just concerning. And then when you talk about now moving on to Vincent Trocheck and the fact that he stayed put, it just made me scratch my head because he was also held out for quote unquote roster management reasons. And then nothing happened. Everyone thought he was going to get traded. And it just makes me think back to the Artemi Panarin trade, back to getting Liam Greentree, plus just a conditional 2026 third. Can become a second, if LA wins one round. But I don't see that. They just fired their coach. It was just a silly trade to make for the Rangers. And, Panarin had 57 points in 52 games before the trade, leading the team, one of the best players in the NHL. If you're going to retool and you have plans to compete next year, have plans to compete the next few years, there has to be some sort of plan. And with the Rangers trading Panarin, holding on to Trocheck, makes me think there's not really a plan in place for the Rangers' future. Moved your best player, ate half of his money, by the way, and got a nice, a nice prospect, but it's just not enough. And for fans, really screams, we're trying to get younger, cheaper, but Liam Greentree is the guy we're going to trust in. Like, come on. This is a team that we have seen fumble the bag on so many young talents. Capo Caco comes to mind. Seems like he's having a pretty good season with the Kraken. Rangers just were never able to tap in to Capo Caco. But going back to Trocheck, him getting sit for roster management really created some type of buzz that something would be next. When Carrick got traded and Vincent Trocheck was out for the same exact reasons, it made you think that he would be moved as well. And then the deadline passes and he's still here, which muddles really the message to me. Like, are they rebuilding or counting on Trocheck as the veteran presence for the next wave? If that was the case, he should have had the C on his chest this year, not JT Miller. And JT Miller, still a player I look back on. Why did we reacquire him last year? Because that was probably the nail in the coffin for Artemi Panarin's tenure in New York this year. I think that really it made things worse to me. It was like turtles all the way down, turtles on top of turtles, if you know, turtles all the way down. Just very confusing. New York Rangers, they can't even sell right as a team. This team stood up in front of everyone and said the magic word, retooling, not all in or tear it down, retool. That implies that there is some kind of plan, some kind of clear vision to what the roster is supposed to look like in the next 2 or 3 years. And then you watch what they actually did, and it feels like they're just throwing darts at a board. You trade Artemi Panarin, your most talented offensive player, a point-per-game winger who drove your power play for years. He was the guy that wanted to come here, by the way. He was the guy that changed the narrative for the Rangers when he came here. And you move him for a nice prospect, a conditional pick, still eating half of his contract. That's not a king's ransom. And if you're going to trade Artemi Panarin, that's what I want in return. It's not a franchise-altering return. That is we hope this works out and hope nobody looks too closely at the cap sheet. Then we get the deadline. And what's the big deadline? Sam Carrick going back to Buffalo for a 3rd and a 6th. You're telling me you got a 3rd-round pick and a 6th for Sam Carrick, and all you got for Artemi Panarin was a conditional 3rd? And Liam Greentree? Just absolutely laughable. That's the big maneuver. That's the quote-unquote retool we've been waiting for from Chris Drury. Move a depth forward for lottery tickets pretty much and call it a day. That's not a vision. That's housekeeping. And then the Trocheck situation sums it up perfectly. You scratch him for quote-unquote roster management reasons. Everybody assumes you're lining up something significant, maybe really committing to this reset. And then nothing. He's still here. No big swing, no full teardown, just mixed messages. So which is it? Are the Rangers rebuilding around youth picks and prospects? Are you trying to stay competitive with a veteran core? Because right now it feels like they tried to do both and accomplished neither. They weakened the top of the lineup. They didn't fully cash in their remaining veteran assets. And in the process, they managed to frustrate just about everyone who was ready to buy into a clear direction. That's the problem with this Rangers team. There is no clear direction. If you're going to go for it, you got to go for it. If you're going to sell, sell. The Rangers chose door number 3, confuse everyone, and call it a plan. Ladies and gentlemen, your New York Rangers, just an absolute clown show over there. Frustrating for me. It's someone that got into the Rangers so young, watched them that 2014 season make the Stanley Cup. First time I cried about sports was after they lost that. So I felt like they got absolutely robbed. But ladies and gentlemen, introducing my new segment, Empire State Check. 3 debates and a verdict for each. So I've seen a lot of talk about this Knicks team. That this is the best the Knicks have been. So looking at the case for the Knicks are the best that they've ever been. Yes, they have a legitimate franchise star in Jalen Brunson. Something the franchise hasn't really had for decades outside of Carmelo Anthony, who, let's be honest, they didn't get anything done there. I'd say Jalen Brunson already a better Knick than Carmelo Anthony. Averages about 26, 27 points a game, 6-7 assists per game, while ranking among the league leaders in clutch scoring. The Knicks have a clear identity under Mike Brown. A team that will do whatever it takes to get things done. A team that will use their whole rotation. You know, the Jose Alvarados, the Tyler Koleks. We have President Robbie Basil joining the show.
Hey, I'm crashing the show today. I'm just here. Hit the boss sound.
Which one is it on? Oh.
What's good, boys? How are we? I just wanted to crash the show because kind of because I can, but I just wanted to say hello. Hi. First of all, good to be here. Feels weird. We're not like we're sitting next to each other again, like we were in AC yesterday, but here we are. No, we're back in Neuro.
Back in Neuro, yeah. Called that absolute thriller of a game.
We did,
Robbie.
We did.
Just upsetting it had to go out like that, but Robbie, we had such a good time, obviously, in AC together.
Yes.
But what we were just talking about is I had a debate question, actually, and I think it's perfect for you.
What do we got?
Yankees have a better future than the Mets.
Ooh, interesting. Yes and no. I mean, I think I like the Yankees young pitching, the Mets young pitching. Yankees young pitching, if they can stay healthy.
They got Carlos LaGrange.
Yeah, I like LaGrange. I really love Nolan McLean. You know, Nolan McLean, if they can get Jonah Tong to put it all together, I think the 1-2 punch of them in the future will be very useful. And we're going to see a lot of the two of them, I think, come opening day in the first couple of months of the season. But going forward, it's who else is it going to be after them? I mean, we know we had Brandon Sproat. I like Sproat. Can he stay healthy? I don't know. But I think the three-headed monster of them would be very fun. But Yankees-wise, I don't know. I mean, they have a lot of, solid veteran pieces right now in the rotation led by Fried and Rodon. Garrett Cole, if he actually can go back to pre-injury form, would be a phenomenal asset for the New York Yankees. So I like the Mets young pitching right now. I think they have the better future pitching-wise, but hitting-wise, I think it's very balanced. Obviously, they have Aaron Judge on the Yankees. Mets got Juan Soto. They have him for a while, for a calm minute, as they say. So I think they're very even right now in terms of future-wise.
I just wanted to ask, what your opinion is on them being locked down to Juan Soto for so long. Were you a fan of that?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, you want to have your stars locked up long-term. There is a fine line with what we mean by long-term. How old is Juan Soto now?
Juan Soto, I think, is 27. No, maybe he's younger than that.
Chase, how old is Juan Soto?
25, maybe?
26 per Chase Caridi.
26.
So
okay.
We have a calm minute left with Juan Soto, which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with it. Any older in the contract started in 2 years, I would have flipped this table over and I would have been very upset, with how long the deal is. But I'm fine with it. It's just it's a lot. It's a lot of, I think looking back on the deal, everyone overreacted, I think, to how much total money he gets.
Yeah.
And you have to think of, it's over a very long period of time. He's going to get taxed on it because money and the government exists. So you won't be getting as much money, if you think about it, as the final contract shows. So people, I think, overreacted to it a little bit in hindsight, but no, I like the move overall for Juan Soto.
So my biggest issue as an outsider, looking in as a Yankees fan to the Mets, was that I knew that if the Yankees had signed him, that he would be a DH in a few years and probably not be playing the field. That was my biggest gripe with it. But where I see things is kind of, the Yankees have an okay farm system. They don't really rank very high, but they have a lot of names that can be intriguing. The Spencer Joneses of the world.
I love him. I'm so annoyed he's on your team.
I think that Jason Dominguez has really, people are still sleeping on him like the kid's, 23 years old?
Yeah, I mean, my problem with Jason Dominguez is you're not going to play him. So, there has to come a time, I think, for the Yankees where you have to fully evaluate and understand, what are we doing with Jason Dominguez? Are we actually going to play him? Because if you don't play him in the next year or two, there's no point of him being there. I think he could be in the future, say Garrett Cole falls off. Hypothetically, or Garrett Cole falls off, which I do think happens, but not as much as some others are expecting it to. Could Jason Dominguez be a trade piece to get that superstar type player as a starting pitcher? That is just a thought. What if, left field, Bellinger, whoever the hell is playing in left. Who is playing left for them
now? Trent Grisham.
So say Trent Grisham hits 165. Hypothetically, Jason Dominguez would go play left field.
Quite honestly, that's the most likely situation. I think what really screwed the Yankees over this offseason was the fact that Trent Grisham accepted that qualifying offer. Brian Cashman had tried to outsmart the system, which he tries to do all the time.
It never works. It does. Usually it doesn't work, boss.
You can't outsmart baseball. It's just confusing to me. But seeing that the Yankees now have some young pitchers, I think is what is most encouraging to me with Carlos LaGrange. The fact that, as you mentioned, Garrett Cole is aging. The emergence of Cam Schlittler last year, kid kind of came out of
Northeastern boy, by the way, who's the same school as my brother, for those who don't know. I love Schlittler. I've heard a lot about his personality, his training regimen. Dude's kind of a psycho, but on the field, that's all that matters. On the field is all that matters. And of course, for his fan base's sake, me being a Mets fan, obviously, is beating the Boston Red Sox by any means necessary. Because Garrett Cole, he can't do that. So you need some other dudes. I watched Garrett Cole play in person against the Red Sox. He allowed 7 runs. It was 5 or 7 runs. He got destroyed by Rafael Devers. It was a very fun night for me. But the Yankees still won anyway.
I mean, good news for Garrett Cole. Rafael Devers in the Bay Area for a while now. But yeah, I was there for the 2020 wild card, I think, when or 2021 wild card when Garrett Cole pitched and they had the little Kermit doll behind him.
Oh my God.
Kind of cursed him for the rest of his career.
Just shout,
And what are, your expectations for the Mets this season?
It's an interesting question. The Mets are in a very peculiar spot. Obviously, they added Freddie Peralta, who I think is going to be fantastic. The issue is, can you re-sign him? I don't know. I think the Mets will because they have the money, but at the end of the day, it's players. You don't know what you're going to expect. We learned that in NFL free agency earlier with Tyler Linderbaum signing with the Raiders. A lot of free agency and some mindsets of players, we as the fans don't really understand. But looking at the team as a whole, I think the 1-2 punch of Peralta and McClain is very exciting for the Mets. Can the bullpen hold it down? Obviously, they lost Edwin Diaz. But I still think the additions of Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, if they can put it together, I think that pitching staff's really solid. It's just a matter of, can they stay healthy? Can they put it together? The lineup will be there. Obviously, they lost Alonso. I think they're going to be fine offensively. Win-wise, I don't know. It's a very interesting number. You can think of all the numbers possible. I think Philadelphia is obviously still going to be great. They have Trey Turner and all that pitching you can imagine. I think the Braves are going to rebound. Obviously, having Ronald Acuna back, who's had a solid WBC. Their biggest question in Atlanta is pitching-wise, and that's where I think the Mets counter Atlanta is the Mets have a more complete rotation, I think, than the Braves. So I think the Mets, right now, my expectation for them is second position in the NL East, going to battle, rather, but with Philadelphia rather than Atlanta. So I think it'll be a scrap between those two in the end. I think Philadelphia might take it by 1 game, but I think the Mets as a playoff team, if they get that far, would be more dangerous than Philadelphia once again.
I think Braves fans are kind of underselling how much Marcell Ozuna meant to that lineup. But
God, yeah.
The thing that makes me scratch my head about the whole Mets free agency was the fact that they have Bo Bichette playing third base, someone that can
I don't like that. I don't know. Who else would play third is the question.
Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos.
Who's plays second?
Mark,
I forgot we traded for him.
Yeah, a lot of
it's such a forgettable move. Sorry, Brandon Nimmo. I love Brandon Nimmo as a person. I got to dap up Brandon Nimmo once years ago. He's a good dude. I hate we traded him, but at the end of the day, we got Luis Robert, who I think will be fun. Brett Beatty. I don't know. Mark Vientos is Mark Vientos. He'll be our DH probably. Maybe hit 212, but hit like 30-something home runs. He's like Pete Alonso, but worse. He also, defensive-wise, I don't know. I mean, it's hot and cold with Mark Vientos. But I think 89 wins as a minimum benchmark would be good. I just don't know how many wins Philadelphia is going to get because they're a very injury-prone rotation team. They also lost a couple of pieces, if I remember. Did they lose Ranger Suarez?
They did lose Ranger Suarez. He went to LA to the Angels.
I remember when that back into the rotation was terrible. Can we go back to that, please? Vince Velasquez and all that. Then he goes and plays left field as more outfield assist than like a couple other players, which is kind of ridiculous.
They got Vince Velasquez from you guys, right?
No.
Who'd they get from you guys? The guy that
Jason Vargas. Vargas, baby. Yes, sir. He was terrible.
Yeah, he was absolutely terrible. But I think both teams, the Yankees and Mets, have a lot of question marks around them. For me, For me as a Yankee fan, I'm like, is running it back really going to work? It looks like the AL East got better around them and they kind of stayed the same. But I think that's enough of baseball. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit of football. Obviously, some football moves that happen. All right, we'll be right back on WIUR.
This is WIUR Radio.
Hi, I'm Morgan Beastie from the Ionian, and I hope you're enjoying today's show. Are you looking for the latest scoop on campus news, sports, and more? Check out the Ionian University's very own award-winning student newspaper. We keep you up to date with everything happening on and off campus. Want to know about the big game, the latest campus event? It's all in the Ionian. Join the conversation. Read, write, and get involved. Visit www.theionian.org or pick up a copy around campus. Stay informed, stay connected. Now, back to WIUR, Iona University Radio.
All right, we are back on Empire State of Sports. Of course, I'm Landon Popovic, now joined by both Robbie Basil and Chase Caridi from the Booth Review. You can check out their show on Fridays at 11, right?
11:30. 11:30. Very weird time, I know. But this is like a makeshift set from our show last 2 Fridays ago now when we previewed the World Baseball Classic on our show. But I'm just happy to be here. I just crashed the show for the joke of it. Now Chase
As
is here.
did I.
Naturally.
So now, obviously, we had NFL free agency kick off today. Saw a plethora of moves happen, but I want to focus on New York because that's what the show's all about. I'm going to ask you, as a Jets fan here, they acquired Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did anything else today, but what do you think?
We've done a lot. We've done a lot. We got significantly older. We re-signed. We got DeMario Davis. He's back again. So, the Super Unk squad is coming home. We did not get Alex Anzalone like everyone thought we would. So we decided to go older, which is just totally did not piss off Breece Hall. Breece Hall is fuming. I have a weird feeling we're going to trade him. I'm just saying here, boys. I have a weird feeling we're trading him to Seattle. I'm just saying. We love trading with Seattle in the first year with a GM. I'm just saying. Joe Douglas traded Jamal Adams his first year. So, hypothetical. But I like the move for DeMario Davis, get some veteran presence. We lose Quincy Williams probably. That one hurts. But we added some pass rushers I've never heard of before. One's from the Bengals. Their pass rush is terrible.
Joe Osai.
Is it Joel Osai?
Joseph Osai.
Joseph Osai. Obviously, DeMario Davis. We've been linked to like every player known to man. We've done nothing with that. All we've done, like I said, is piss off Breece Hall. So that's been fun. That'll be something fun to. But to be fair, We've made more moves on day one of free agency this year than we did in each of the seasons with Joe Douglas. Progress. Now, are any of them at the level of Corey Davis a couple years ago when he was like supposed to be nice? Or what's his face, who's now at the Lions, that corner, that short corner that was good. DJ Reed, there you go.
Reed.
Were any of them at that level? I don't know. I like Demario Davis, though. So I think the Jets, they're not off to a bad start. Please get younger and please sign a corner. I don't want to see Brandon Stevens as our cornerback one. He's going to get destroyed. But also, stop annoying Breece Hall. I like Breece Hall. But yeah, the Jets, not off to the worst start. Could be better. We still don't know who our quarterback is. That's concerning. I thought for a minute we're going to sign Malik Willis. Thank goodness we didn't, because he's getting paid more, slightly more, only slightly more than Justin Fields, which is a little bit surprising. But so far for the Jets, we also traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick. I like it. We extended him. Also good. So I was talking to my guys earlier. I gave it the Jets so far a B- grade because of Minkah, but everything else kind of underwhelming because we got significantly older.
Chase, any comments on what the Jets did?
For the Jets,
You're just gonna rip into it like how we did on our show.
I thought they were a team that definitely could have been in on Malik Willis. I think he is definitely a much better flyer than Justin Fields was last season. But obviously, Miami goes and pays him. So now instead of getting him, you got to play him twice a year, and I don't think that's going to be fun at all because I got a lot of faith in him. But overall, I do like some of the moves that the Jets were able to do. David Onyemata as well, Kingsley Enagbare, other guys.
David Onyemata, I didn't know we got
defense.
him.
Yes, they added.
How many moves have we made now? 6? 5?
About 6.
Cool.
6, maybe 7. No, but of all the moves, I think, they gotten older, but that also adds experience. And this is a team that, didn't do much defensively in Aaron Glenn's first year. He is now calling defensive plays. We'll see if that, moves the needle as much as it possibly can. But again, I think this is a team that's going to obviously move defense first with no real offensive kind of identity yet. Will they make those moves to do so in free agency or the draft? We'll see. But
Probably
overall,
not.
I think it's a good job. You could just slowly building around with experienced players that could make it a little bit more formidable opponent throughout the NFL season.
Robbie, where do you see the Jets going at quarterback this season? Because that's obviously a huge question mark.
I know they liked Heist Simpson as a possible draft pick. I think in the second round, it's definitely an option. What I would like for them is to go with Justin Fields again. I think the biggest issue, he didn't really turn over the ball. I didn't like the first season of Tanner Engstrand, but I just have hated every Jets offensive play caller for like 8 years now. They've all been bad and then somehow become good with like other teams. Not going to mention names. LaFleur, who's now the head coach of the Cardinals. Maybe he can actually go out by himself as a first year of something and win more than 4 games. So far for the Jets, I think the Jets are going to go back to Justin Fields. The dead cap, they can't afford it now because of how much dead cap they have with everyone else. It's at like 90-something million now, which is, for reference, we have the same amount of dead cap for the Jets as Tua Tagovailoa does with the Dolphins. I'm just saying, but it's over the course of 2 years.
Absolutely.
So
disgusting.
It's not all bad. We could be the Dolphins and be paying 100-something million to quarterbacks who are not on our teams. Well, I mean, Tua is on their team and not on their team now, and Willis is technically just signed. But point being, I think Justin Fields is going to be their quarterback again. I do see them drafting one. I've liked Ty Simpson. He just doesn't. I mean, he turns it over a little bit. I've always liked Trinidad Chambliss. I started to like Trinidad Chambliss. I saw his stock rising. Possibly, if he goes to the draft, I know he's going to declare war on the NCAA as he continues to fight for a waiver, which is something that's totally not happening in our conference right now, if you've seen the news. But I think right now it's going to be Justin Fields. I don't think they have an option free agency. I know they've been linked to like Curtin. Tua's going to the Falcons, because they want to get more left-handed quarterbacks. This is not MLB, Major League Baseball, where you need like multiple lefties in the rotation.
Yeah, that was just.
I'm not a fan of that. I do not want to attack Tagovailoa. I know we've been linked to like a bunch of random old quarterbacks. I don't like that. I like to be able to move a quarterback that moves in the pocket, even though they do run read options and just hand it off. This is not college football 26 where you can do that. So I don't know. I think Justin Fields right now has to be their guy. They can't really afford more dead cap hits. So yeah, I think there's a possibility they cut him, but right now I think they have to stick with Justin.
So you mentioned, obviously, you like the read option quarterbacks. in the Meadowlands, you really need that to be able to be mobile in the pocket, to be able to run around. But now moving over to the other team that plays in the Meadowlands, the New York Giants, they made a pretty big move, I guess you would say, in Isaiah Likely. Tight end's been a little bit of a dead spot for this team for a little while now. We've seen flashes of Daniel Bellinger and who's the other one? Theo Johnson.
Oh yeah, Theo Johnson.
And Theo Johnson, be somewhat good. As a Giants fan, I like the move because I know he's a Harbaugh guy that could fit into a Harbaugh scheme. But as an outsider looking in, what do you think?
I think the way I'll word it is that move has been overshadowed by the news of Wan'Dale Robinson. I think the Isaiah Likely move is solid. I think we learned when he was in Baltimore, him as a part of a 1-2 punch is really good. And I think pairing him with Theo Johnson is going to be a lot of fun for what the Giants are trying to do offensively. I think he's going to be a good weapon for Jackson Dart if they use him properly. We saw him as a little bit of a deep ball threat. Also, sometimes he has stones for hands, but I think overall, I like the move for Likely. I don't know how much they're paying this man.
It was 3 years, I think, around $37 million.
3 years for 40.
It might have been for 40.
Interesting. As a compliment more than a main attraction, I think it's a little bit higher than I was thinking, but I still think the idea of adding a guy like Isaiah Likely as a weapon for this Giants offense, I think they desperately need a receiver now. Yeah. I don't know what they do. I had 5 seconds was thinking, oh yeah, Mike Evans, just get another old receiver.
And then he went to San Francisco somehow.
Yeah, because that makes sense. So no, at this point in the free agency, nothing's making sense. But I do think that the logical move for the Giants, and they were linked with Isaiah Likely for a bit. Yesterday, we heard a little bit of rumblings about that. So I think I like the move for Likely. I think it's going to be useful to help out that Giants offense.
Yeah, as a Giants fan, I kind of wanted to trade for DJ Moore. Speaking on DJ Moore, we have Chase Caridi, who's a Bills fan here. Chase, what do you think of the Bills acquiring DJ Moore?
We've been waiting to hear this since that bus.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. That's fair by you guys. Listen, I think as a move, I think it's definitely something they needed to do is get a proven commodity at wide receiver. And I think DJ Moore, even though my initial reaction was, he's lost a bit of a step. He's gotten older, and that shows in his play. It also just shows from the emergence of guys like Rome Odunze and Luther Burden for the Chicago Bears these past couple of years. And even in the tight end game, like seeing Colston Loveland, he will continue to regress, as well as Cole Kmet has been there. They needed to get DJ Moore off the books, obviously, as the most paid guy there. They needed to move off of him. They go with the Bills, and I think, yes, the second-round pick is pretty high in terms of trading for that, especially since the Bills will still carry all of that contract, even with the cap concerns they've already had before making that trade, which also explains why we've had such a slow free agency on the first day. But nevertheless, I think this is a guy that, Allen's going to be able to trust early on throughout the season and, pushes guys back like Josh Palmer, like Khalil Shakir, just one step further back in terms of how important they need to be in the offense. So I think that is definitely important in letting the Bills offense definitely grow more, especially with Joe Brady fully at the helm now, no matter what that means. A lot of cryptic stuff going on about when they talk about Keon Coleman and whether or not how much, he has to do with drafting him and everything that's gone on since then. So again, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do so far. I don't think they're done in the wide receiver market. I think they could still kind of take flyers on guys. Obviously, like Romeo Dobbs, I think one of the biggest names still out there. A couple of other players still to be considered in the market. But overall, I think it was a good first move. And honestly, with the way they've been drafting a second-round pick, that's going to be late in the back end of the draft anyway. Doesn't really hurt me too much.
All right. I just want to go back to the Giants before we close things off because we have about 7 minutes left. As a Giants fan, I saw that they were interested in Kenneth Walker. Obviously, he went to the Chiefs. They just couldn't afford him with the cap, it seems like. And now they're talking about Jeremiah Love. As a Giants fan, I really like Cam Scatterbo, and I know he's a fan favorite around the league. And I don't want to move away from him, but as a Giants fan, I might be a little biased because I kind of fell in love with his personality this season, fell in love with the play style. But I can see how that can, be a concern for John Harbaugh coming into a new environment. Would it be a mistake to move on from Cam Scatterbo for Jeremiah Love in the draft potentially?
Yes. There is more pressing needs on that Giants roster than adding a second running back. There is no reason. If they if the best, I know that the Chiefs probably would have traded up for Jeremiah Love. Now they don't need to do that. I still think there could be a team that trades up for Jeremiah Love. I just don't know who that is. I think there is a small possibility of that happening, but there's so much more that the Giants need to do to help put themselves out of the basement of the NFC East. I just don't see it happening. I think they need to add, I think trading down and maybe drafting Mekhi Lemon from USC or drafting another a receiver at 5 if there's anyone that rises up that far, I think has to be the move for the Giants if they don't address that in free agency over the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, there's not like a Malik Neighbors that stands out in the draft at receiver, unfortunately, for the Giants. But I would like them to see the offensive line route, try and draft an offensive lineman at 5. I mean, we saw how well that worked out for the Chargers when Joe Alt was healthy. I think having a young offensive lineman that could grow under John Harbaugh would be the best situation. We saw what he did with the Ravens, being able to build up that offensive line around a running quarterback like Lamar Jackson. I just think that that's what they need to do. Any last thoughts before we sign off, Robbie?
I think that both the New York teams have had an up and down start to free agency. I have a feeling one of them is going to make a big move. I think it might have to be the New York Giants. I don't know where they go. I have a feeling they're going to sign someone big over the next day or 2.
All right. Well, that has been Empire State of Sports. Obviously had some surprise guests in Chase Caridi and Robbie Basil. Thank you for joining us from Landon Popovic. This has been Empire State of Sports. We'll keep you covered with what the Giants do next and where the Knicks stand in the Eastern Conference. Signing off. I'll see you next week.
Live from New York, this is WIUR Radio.